Good afternoon, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. So we have an atmospheric river running through the Pacific Northwest right now, so we may get some really heavy rains during this video. Wow, I'm having a hard time talking. Okay, here we go. Let's talk about the increase and decrease of money to a state and what that does to the manufacturing base of that particular country, right? Here in the United States, we experienced it. China's going through it. India's getting ready for it. Mexico is experiencing it. This is something that happens over and over and over again, and there's examples of it taking place from hundreds of years ago. Now, I'm going to go back to the Cantillon essay. This is Cantillon's essay on economic theory. Richard Cantillon was an economist who wrote this thing back in like the 1700s. Some of the economic forces that were taking place that he was describing back then are still occurring today. And when I read through some of these chapters, it really makes a lot of sense to what is truly occurring within the manufacturing base of places like China, moving to places like India and Mexico. Okay, so I'm going to leave links down in the description to all this stuff. Let's think about like what is happening right now. China is really slowing down on their manufacturing, right? They are not increasing back to the place that they were prior to the pandemic, and it seems to be moving from China to places like India and Mexico. Why? A lot of times people will blame this on political, atmosphere or whatever's happening out there that's causing this to take place. And people will argue with these points that I'm making right now or about ready to make in this video. However, again, these are, these economic forces that are taking place are described from hundreds of years ago. So it's not me that's making this stuff up, right? When people are disagreeing with this, they're disagreeing with examples that have been in play for hundreds of years. Okay. Now, the first one, chapter 6 from this essay, the increase and decrease of the quantity of money in a state. Here, Cantillon uses his price-specie flow mechanism to analyze some of the effects of inflation. Increasing the supply of money by mining hurts some people and benefits others because certain prices and incomes rise faster than others. However, if the new money is accumulated and saved by those who successfully export goods, either because of superior quality or more efficient transportation, it will lead to a higher standard of living. So now it's kind of, he's a little complicated in what he is saying there, but ultimately what it is coming down to is that he is describing the United States when we were a manufacturing powerhouse. We were exporting stuff to the world was sending us their money, we were enjoying that higher standard of living. That's exactly how he was describing it from hundreds of years ago, and I'll read it again. Here, Cantillon uses his price-specie flow mechanism to analyze some of the effects of inflation. Increasing the supply of money by mining hurts some people. So if we replace mining with manufacturing and exports, right? Hurts some people and benefits others because certain prices and incomes rise faster than others. So as this was beginning to take place, some people who were enjoying that new money coming in were get to enjoy the experiences of having that new money. Everybody at the end of the line was suffering because of it. Right? However, if the new money is accumulated and saved by those who successfully export goods, right, like the United States was doing during their manufacturing powerhouse days, either because of superior quality or more efficient transportation, it will lead to a higher standard of living, which is exactly what the United States had experienced during that time, right? You think about it, one income could produce enough money to provide for an entire household, college tuitions, vacations, stuff like that. All right, chapter 7, more on the increase and decrease in the quantity of money in the state. It goes like this. When there is an increase in the quantity of money, prices will increase depending on how the new money holders decide to spend their money. The price changes will also be affected by such things as regulation on trade and the perishability of the products that are traded. In other words, the simple quantity theory of money is naive in proposing that a doubling of the quantity of money would double all prices equally. Changes in the quantity of money will change relative prices and have real effects on the economy, a phenomenon known as the Cantillon effect. All right, so this is important to understand because a lot of people just kind of look at like when the quantity of money comes in, that automatically causes inflation, and that's not the case, right? What has to happen is that money has to come in and people have to start spending that money. When they start spending that money, that starts causing the supply-demand imbalances to occur, and the prices start to move up. And that's exactly what he was trying to say there. In other words, the simple quantity theory of money is naive in proposing that a doubling of the quantity of money would double all prices equally. Changes in the quantity of money will change relative prices and have real effects on the economy, a phenomenon known as the Cantillon effect. So as that money is coming in, then the people who are enjoying that new money start experiencing the enjoyment of that. They start consuming more. And the people at the end of the line who have last access to the money, they suffer the most as this added consumption is now driving up the prices and depriving them with the ability to now consume those things, right? And that's like essentially the Cantillon effect. Now, if we move on to the last part here, further reflections on the increase and decrease of money in a state. Increases in the supply of money from a balance of trade eventually causes prices to rise. This, in turn, puts pressure on domestic producers and increases imports. The result is that a balance of trade is reduced and eventually is negative. This is Cantillon's price-specie flow mechanism, which demonstrates the reason for the tendency for equilibrium in international monetary flows. The balance of trade can result in economic power, but this also causes the economy to lapse into luxury and decline. Now, this is a very important chapter right here because this really starts to explain it all. As the new money comes in and the increase in standard of living begins to take place, the added increase of standard of living to the prices, to the consumption, to the demand, starts to cause those prices to move up. When that happens, right, this added standard of living and the higher prices, foreign competition starts to come in because of the discounted price for either being an inferior product and the transportation coming to it is cheaper, and therefore providing that particular economy with a product that now substitutes for the higher priced domestic product. Okay, this is important to understand. This is what ends up happening to the United States as their higher standard of living starts bringing in ever increasing amounts of foreign production. And we're exporting our domestic manufacturing. So the example of it happening here in the United States, a lot of times, like again, we can blame it on politics. We can point the finger at all kinds of things that were happening there, but it's described right here 200 years ago. China is experiencing the same thing. They have had an increase in standard of living due to the fact that they are a manufacturing powerhouse. The only difference between them is their manufacturing is now leaving, moving to places like India and Mexico, where it's cheaper to get it to the United States. The United States didn't fall into poverty after they had moved into luxury. Why? It's because the new money that was coming in from the manufacturing that was causing our standard of living to increase was then switched to debt. Instead of being a manufacturer, we became a debt issuer. And we still are today. And we're the number one on the planet. And everybody wants to sell their stuff to the United States because we are the biggest consumer. This is what's happening today. When you look at places like China and India and Mexico, and you think about this being a political thing or a geopolitical thing or something like that, yeah, I mean, I guess it could. There could be directions on, you know how people are causing this shift from manufacturing from the manufacturing from the United States to China, to India, Mexico, to Vietnam. Right? Is this being done on purpose by a selected handful of men, or men who have chosen to do it on their own selected purpose from whoever it is who selected them? Or is just this economic forces that are at play, and these are the efficient places that they are going to? See, you can blame it on politics all you want. Right? I mean, you can, there's plenty of blame to go around. I mean, there's plenty of excuses and reasons and wars and all that stuff, the effects of what men do. But yet, here it is, economic forces that are at play, described for hundreds of years ago and occurring in plain sight, in plain view. See, a lot of times it's hard to understand this stuff if you've never been shown, if nobody's ever talked about it this way. If everybody shows like, hey, this is the reason why this is happening, and then they give you all kinds of reasons and excuses and evidence of that, never showing you anything like this, then what else are you supposed to believe? Okay. Links are down in the description on Uneducated Economist. You let me know.